to focus on trees for a couple of weeks, because when we had our first tree drawing lesson last week, I think it went really well. We had kind of an ambitious subject that couldn't really be finished easily, but I think the points that we learned about what do you call it? Like kind of following the organic path of the branch rather than making it a straight up and down thing is really important. I want to focus on leaves because I know you're looking at this and thinking, oh my God, right? Like, oh my God. And what I want to show you is an easier way to think about leaves. And I'm trying to decide, I think I might have you actually I want to show you that I'm going to show you a couple of things before we get started. I did a very quick sketch of this tree showing the shadows and the sort of light parts of the tree. And so I'm going to have us, once we review some pictures, I'm going to have you start with that before we get into a big scale drawing of the tree. For those of you who would like a grid, if you are new to this and you'd like a grid, let me know. I'll show you how to set up your paper for a grid. If you've got a ruler, it's great. If you don't, you just need to be able to fold a piece of paper. So when we get to it, we will do that. But first, let me just show you a couple of things. So one of the things I like to think about, I found some great sketches on the internet. There's a lot of great stuff out here. I'll also put this across the thread, so don't worry. I want you to notice that although there are a lot of leaves on this tree, the first step in kind of defining leaves is finding like where the dark areas of the leaves are and where the light areas are. And you can see in both of these cases that there's kind of little circles, circular like shapes around the dark area, around the light areas, and then the same with the dark areas. So can you see that? So this is how we start when we start sketching out a tree. We start by figuring out, by the way, if this is the dark area and this is the dark area, what direction is the light coming from here?
From the top.
Yep, exactly. Right? The top coming down. How can you tell?
Because the top is lighter.
Right. Literally, that's as simple as it gets. How about here?
Same thing. Or
Nope.
the front, a bit of the front as well.
Nope. Right.
Oh.
Take a look, because all the darks are kind of under here, right? So the sun, you like my little son? Are you feeling confident about my drawing abilities right now? It's like, so it's good to think about lights and darks. I also wanted to show you one or two. I found some really great sketches. So I wanted to show you how you might build up leaf shapes on a tree before we start to work on it with this. So once again, one or two more things to review here. Found this great guy who did a fairly simple tree drawing. Here we go. And look at how he starts. I like it because this is kind of one way of sketching it right in, and then this is another way. So if you can see, he basically has the outer shapes. I'll send this to you so you can see it. So once again, light coming from the right? Light coming from the top right. It doesn't mean there's never anything light over in the dark side. It just means that there's a kind of under area. More of it is dark. So light's coming from this side. And you'll see that these beginning areas starts to talk about, and I'm going to sketch them in so you can really see them, how we start to shape leaves. So you'll see that what he's done here, I'm not going to make you do this, I'm just going to show it to you, is really sketch out the leaf shapes where a light edge meets a dark edge. That's how simple it starts. So we're going to mostly be working with where light clusters of leaves meet dark clusters of leaves. Does that make sense? And you can see there's this little bit of kind of scallop scoop here to create leaves. It might be different for different trees. We're going to do an oak this week. Then we're going to move to evergreens because I have a lot of those around. I went looking for an oak and then I realized none of them have leaves right now. So I can't like draw that.
What about things like apple trees or cherry trees? Or
sure, we can all get to that too, but we'll start with the basics.
The thing about apple trees is that if they have been trimmed properly, they should have only 2 or 3 main branches.
Yeah. Well, you'll see.
Make it easy.
We don't necessarily, they have, yes. I mean, yeah, we're going to spend at least 4 weeks with trees. Here's stage 2 of that process. So if you can look and see, we go from step 1, where we've just defined the outer areas. And then in step 2, we're actually pulling out some of the darker areas. Do you see this, how this is working? Some of the darker areas within the dark, up in here. He's added in the 3 branches and that little tree hole up here. Little bits of dark here. So really not that much else has happened, except in some areas we've added in more dark. So you see how this layering process starts to take place. I'll send these over so you guys can have them on the thread. We're not going to spend too much time with them. Here is step 3. I love these step-by-steps on the internet. Often it's like step 1 is very simple and then you go to step 4 and it's really hard. But I like this one. I feel like it. Here, let's see. So if you can see, here's step 2, and then what's happened in step 3, and this just depends on how much detail you want to get. I don't think we need to get this much. See how he's darkened right here? Really, he's still working in the areas where the leaves, there's very little leaf shaping happening in here. He's added a little bit of sort of middle tones, right? And a little bit of shaping and a little bit more of this random pattern shaping, right? So it's not scoop, scoop, scoop so much. There's little bits taken out, but really where he's doing most of the work is where a light edge meets a dark edge. Is that, you guys getting that? Does that make sense?
Is that the finished tree on the left, or
nope.
Is it still
this is the finished tree?
Oh, okay.
You don't have to go, like, you don't have to get to here, but I want to show you how he got to here, because our obsession is kind of focusing on every leaf. There's a ton of areas where there is no leaf pattern at all. What I really want you to see, look close and you'll see really the detail is where light meets dark. That's where the detail is, right? And that's where we focus. And we start with the bigger shapes here. And you move slowly to the smaller shapes, right? But you're starting with the bigger shapes first. I find that very practical because I think it keeps you from being overwhelmed. So is everybody ready to kind of like try a drawing? Who would like to grid this drawing? Who would like to know what gridding is? Anybody want to know what gridding is? Let me know.
Grid.
Okay, great. So do you have a ruler?
No, but I
Okay.
did your giraffe class. So
All right, so we're going to do the same thing we did with the giraffe class. So if you don't have a ruler, you're going to start like this. You're going to start with a piece of paper. Here, I'm going to bring this up a little bit. You're going to start with a piece of paper, a blank piece. This actually has something on the back, but you're going to start with a blank piece of paper and you're going to fold it once, twice. Those of you who want to use a ruler, wait just a second and I'll show you how to do that. 3 times and 4 times, right? So that when you open this, I mean, it means your drawing is folded, but right, we're okay with that. And then my suggestion, if you don't have a ruler, is to take your pencil. You know what, I just had a pencil here. hold on. Sharpening my pencil just a little bit. Oh, there it is. Sorry, I had a pencil with a bigger eraser. Make sure you've got an eraser. I have had people show up to class thinking they don't need one. No, no, no. We all need an eraser for sure. Darn it. Here we go. All right. And then you can just take another sheet of paper and line it up with your fold, right? Like this. So you just want to redraw those lines so you can see them. So you can see your 16 rectangles, really. If you struggle to see this, sometimes it's tough. You can just refold it, right? Like that. Then it's easier to see. So do that along the edges. For those of you who have a ruler, you're going to do on your tree, on your blank paper, what I'm about to do on this source. So if you've got her, don't be confused. I'm working with the source because I'm not going to grid, but I'm going to show you how. I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to find the halfway point of each side of my paper. This, by the way, is A4 printer paper that I'm using. So I would highly recommend that instead of getting fancy with your A4 will be a little bit confusing. You won't see it as well. Here, I'm looking for the marker that will help. And the halfway point here on mine is, this is 11 inches, so it's 5.5. You can also use inches or centimeters. It doesn't really matter. You can switch them off. I can find the halfway point up here, actually writing on the tape. And then I'm going to find the halfway point here. I'm not telling you what these are because it might be different than a little different than what you're measuring. I don't want to confuse you, but notice I'm always lining the edge of my ruler up with the edge of my paper. I know that sounds dumb, but you would be surprised at how many people kind of struggle with this. And then I line my ruler up with my 2 marks and I can draw them. So there you go. Here are the first 2 folds of the paper. And then we're going to find the halfway point of each halfway. So that is 5.5, that's 2.75. So I'm going to find the halfway point of each halfway. You want to do that with your paper too. I'm not a huge fan of inches. I think they're kind of a stupid measurement. They're hard to split up. But sometimes inches, this ruler, which is easy to see, happens to just have inches on it. So I can pull these down. The ruler is a tool, believe it or not. Just like everything else. Sometimes tools get, so is our pencil, so is the paintbrush. Sometimes tools take getting used to. All right. So this is the alternative to folding. Creates the same triangles. So I'm doing this with the marker so you guys can see it well. And I'll take a picture of it also. Send it across the thread. There we are. Okay. Let me take a picture of this here. So you guys can see it. Before we start, let me just pin this up so you can see this too. We're going to do a little mini sketch too. Just to kind of get a hold of, so I want you to also have another piece of paper. It can be a small piece. Here we are up here. We're going to do a little mini sketch before we get started. So once you've got your paper prepped with the grid, if you're going to be using the grid, let's take a look at a few important lines that we need to recognize. First of all, what direction is the light coming from? Can you see?
Upper right.
Yes. Good job, rookie. From this direction. So there's a kind of important line of dark to light happening here. It's like kind of up like this. Technically, yeah, I think these are the strongest. This is the strongest dark area. So this whole area, I'll take a picture of this so you can see this better. This is like under the tree, right? Where the leaves come over and the tree, this is sort of the shadow area of the tree. So here is your first kind of really important shape, which means that this is the light shape, right? And then here, in a very simple way, are a set of triangles that kind of define the trunk. Here, I'm going to take a picture of this so you can really see this. Normally the red shows up better. I don't know why it doesn't today. So in our first sketch, in a little sketch that we're going to do, and I want you not to use your grid for this. I want you to just practice. This is just a sketch, so we're not like worried about it being perfect. Yeah.
Sorry, Leah, is this on a scrap of paper or is this?
Yeah, you can do it on a scrap of paper or a
you.
little sketch pad. Here. Can you
This,
guys see
what
that?
I meant is that this is not going to become the main drawing.
No,
right?
no, 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 no. This will be little.
Okay.
Let's just do it little. So I just want us to get kind of warmed up to the shapes, right? And paying attention to the shapes before we get started. And this is what a lot of artists will do, actually. I wonder if I can get this up a little higher. Yeah, I think we can see all of that. So I'm going to move my paint drawing down here. There we go. Yeah, I have this little sheet of sketch paper. Take a look at it. So when I go in and do my sketch, I'm going to start with these bigger shapes. So I'm trying to get both in here. Here, if you can come a little bit closer. There we go. There we go. So I'm going to start with like kind of my my trunk here. And then this oak tree kind of comes out like a fan, right? So here's the kind of bigger shape. So funny, it's like kind of a head, like a beauty salon hair dryer. You guys remember those back before the pandemic? People went to beauty salons, did their thing. So, and for some reason, nobody's seeing this here. I'm just going to draw really strongly so you can make sure you see this. So we start with that shape, not with the trunk, not with any of those inner motions. We're going to start with the trunk and then go to, and make sure when you put this in, you don't put this up too high. Notice that if I go from here to here on this side, that like the dark side starts about halfway down the canopy of the tree. So I want to make sure one, two, I kind of started at about here. Notice I started a little higher, very easy to kind of put things in the wrong places. There we go. It looks kind of ridiculous, doesn't it? This little sketch, it doesn't feel right, but this is how we have to start everything in drawing and painting and everything we do. But it feels manageable, right? It's like a manageable thing. And then I'm going to sketch in, let's see, we're going to sketch in the trunk, and there's like 3 kind of triangles here. spaced out by branches. Oh, I made them up a little too high. Bring it down a little bit. How do I know I made it up a little too high? Because there's a space here between here and the top of the canopy. And I didn't have that space. Yeah. And then there's this one that comes down a little lower. Notice I'm spending more time drawing what we call the negative space than the actual thing that I'm drawing. So the negative space is the space in between the tree trunk, the object that you're doing. So we've got those shapes. Now this is still mostly dark, but I did want to get these in here just so we have a little bit of trunk. We don't need that much. We can add more in later. And then the next thing I'm going to do is kind of darken this. And I'm going to go right over my lines here. You'll see the method in a moment. So when I get into my bigger sketch, oh yeah, I'm glad we're doing this. I'm always beginning drawing to the level that we're doing it is not something I've had the pleasure of being able to really explore. So I'm always thinking like, what do we need to start with, right? And I think this is really cool. I'm stoked. So you start with this, right? And then I go in and I darken the darkest areas, my trunk. I can come in and sort of darken my trunk here. Notice the trunk kind of curves a little bit, to sort of shifts to the right here. I don't have to do all my branches, but I'm going to do a few. There's a branch in here. Notice I don't let my branches go up very high either. I could maybe add one or two in here. See how much easier it is when I'm starting with the biggest shapes and going to the smaller ones. I might erase a little bit of this shape down here and maybe a touch in here, and I might get darker around the edges. Now I'm doing these kind of swirly patterns just because this is a sketch and I'm wanting that feeling of leaf on the tree. And look at how already I've got this sense of tree. So what I want you to get from these sketches, what I'm realizing is important about these sketches, is that they start to give you a, and if I want to, I can add, you know, these little branches in here. If I want to, I can add little things in here, but I don't need to get there just yet. It's pretty dark down here and it's pretty dark up here. What I want you to start to get is the kind of how to construct right from the beginning. What are we focusing on first? It's okay if your trunk looks a little bit, but if I wanted to, I could kind of carve this in a little bit. I might. My trunk looks a touch thick. So let me take a picture of that. And I want you guys to spend a minute or two getting there. How is this? Is this helpful for people? Helpful for warming up, starting to think about it? Yeah. Good. And then while you guys are doing that, I'm going to outline some of the major dark and light branch shapes. So there's this happening. That. If you're looking at what I'm doing here, you're going to see, it's hard to see today. What if I tried a blue? That would look better. Nope. It's not easier to see either. So I'm looking for the right color that will just pop out when we do it. Maybe this yellow. I'll take a picture of it so you can see it. But if you notice what I'm doing, I'm carving out the tree shape from the edges rather than going inside first. So I'm starting with these shapes first. And then I'm looking kind of at where the biggest light clumps are. Without getting too fussy, I'm pulling out. I'm kind of focusing your attention on the biggest light shapes within the tree. I'll take a picture of this so you can see it. Kind of light dark shapes within the tree. It's not all of them, it's just some of them. But you can see there's this overlay. What's happening is this cluster of branches as it's pushing out, right? Because there's actually a pushing towards you that's happening that we can't see because we're dealing with a flat surface. As something pushes out, it's catching the light coming from the right, right? And as it's getting darker, it's pushing away from the light. It's going back this way. That's why, so this, to create the feeling of going this way and that way, on a thing that only goes like this and that, right? We have to pay attention to where the light and dark edges meet. That is key. So here, I'm going to send this to you, and then we're going to sketch them in. A few of them. So hopefully you can see that pretty well. And if you guys have questions, please jump in. Let me know.
I'm having a hard time identifying like in the shady underside that we were doing before, like
What?
anything.
You're not supposed to be identifying anything in the shady
But like
underside.
you shaded some things darker than others, and I can't quite figure that out.
It's too soon. Send me a picture of what you want me to look at, and send me a picture of what you're working on, and I'll tell you if you've got what you need. I think you're getting too into detail when you don't need to. So does that make sense? So I think you're getting too much into the detail, but send me a picture so I can see it. You're probably getting too focused on there's this and this and this and this and this and this and this, right? I haven't really sketched those out. I have this shape, I have that shape, and I have this shape. And some areas of this are a little bit darker. Some are a little bit lighter, but really there's only 1, 2, 3 really kind of little narrow areas. We're not worrying too much about it. But let me see.
I'll drop it in the group chat, Leah?
Yes, please. Actually, it's great because probably other people are having trouble with this. I can take a look at it. Yeah, you're fine. Don't worry about it. You can get everything a little bit darker. You can make your leaves are almost as dark as your tree branches. So now you can go in and kind of darken, but you have all right here, you have all you need for your sketch. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So the nice thing about drawing is that we're never dealing with detail at the beginning. We're dealing with detail, but we're dealing with certain details. And your left brain is kind of trying to tell you, Vanessa, that you're wrong, right? You don't know what you're doing, blah, 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 right? This isn't right. But in fact, it's more right than you think. Okay, I'm sketching in, and while I'm doing this as well, I'm sketching in. I am going to move this. Yeah, I think this is easier for you guys to see. I'm kind of sketching in these outer shapes here that are here. They're here. I'm going around my edge here. Okay, here, there's a kind of a carve in. I can get rid of I can use my eraser to get rid of my So see how I'm starting to kind of carve out my tree, the outer shapes of my tree. That's an important one. I don't think I even want to worry about what's happening down here yet. Let's see. Here is kind of a dark area. Here I'm literally going in and kind of trying to trace all these shapes, leaving the dark spaces in between. So paying attention, not just to also knowing I don't have to be perfect because it's a tree, and I can kind of mess up the, this one's a little too, this is coming out a little bit. It should be coming in more. It should be narrower. There's another one that kind of comes here. It comes in, out, and down. I think that's most of them. I'm going to send you a picture of this. Yeah, actually, Vanessa, that's a really nice sketch. It is perfect for sketch purposes. So our mind, our left brain wants to go to detail. We have to train it to push away from detail. So I'm coming, and Jessica, and Vanessa, your question a little bit about how dark to make things is going to become more apparent as we start to color in the rest of the tree. While you guys are doing that, I think I'm going to label these. I'm going to label these 2, 2, 2. These are like 3 to 4. You'll see the method here momentarily. 2, 2 to 3, 2, 2, 4 for sure, 4 for sure. Three, 2. Okay, so now what I've done is create a little values chart for you to see how, oh, Sandra, lovely. That's exactly right. Sandra, bring in your darks a little bit more. You don't need quite so much light there.
Okay.
Bring in your darks much closer. But great coverage. And notice also that this area, which is not a light triangle, there's just a little bit of light in it. So it's dark here and it's dark here. It's kind of only light in the center. So here, I'm going to send this to you. Let's talk about what this chart means. Charts. I thought this was going to be a drawing class. What is this business about charts and numbers and things? So what I've just done is label these on the values scale. Values, I need another pencil sharpener is really what I need. Hold on just a second. I'll let you guys get there. I'm going to sharpen my pencil. Values is the lightness or darkness of any color. And values is key in creating edges, right? Because we need to know kind of how dark or light to make something. So if you want to think of values as 1 being just light with no color at all, and 5, why is it? Here we are. 5 as being like super dark, right? Sorry, 5. 2, 3, and 4 are varying levels of light to darkness. So 2 is kind of fairly light. It's got a little bit of color, but not that much. 3 has more.
So down there, was it a 4 or 5?
I sent it. Oh, that's a 5. Obvious. Okay. Like, yeah, 5. 5. The 5s and the 1s aren't hard to see, right? It's the 2, 3s, and the 4s that are a little bit trickier. Good question there. All right. So notice I'm using my finger to kind of scrub out because I'm doing this fairly quickly. Notice I'm going back over my darkest to make sure that my 4 is darker than my 5. So as you start to go in and shade things in our little sketch, we're not going to spend too much time on the sketch. We're going to spend a little bit more time. You're going to be playing with your values. You're going to be working with your values.
You don't want a 4 darker than a 5.
What? What did you say?
You said that you're working to make your 4 darker than the 5.
My 5 darker than my 4.
Okay.
Sorry. Also, the more you get into right brain, I'm going to tell you right now, the more your words come out totally fucked. So we don't have kids in there. We don't have any kids in here. So if I say the opposite thing, that's because I'm thinking in shapes and colors and values. I'm not thinking about what the thing is. So the words don't come as easily. That's a good sign, right?
Yes.
So you've got really I don't think we really have any 5s up here. We've got 4s. So now you can start to kind of based on your numbers, start to sort of practice laying in. So your 3, here's an important one. Your 3 to 4 here shouldn't be as dark. Here on the canopy shouldn't be as dark as your 5. So as I get in here, I can see that I'm making my 3 to 4 really. Here, hold on. I'm going to scoot over a little bit because maybe that's what the problem is. I feel like the sun is kind of obliterating. Every moment in the studio, it's a challenge to, here, hold on. I have to shift over the camera. Come on. Because the sun moves and then it shines on another part, even though I have the lights off. Here, hold on. And if you're feeling like things don't feel right, like the way you were just commenting, Vanessa, you're like, I'm not sure. Do I have this? Is this correct? Right? Do I have this right? If you're feeling like you don't have things right, that's generally your left brain kind of confused by your right brain, right? Like it's your right brain, it's your left brain trying to define things for you. And the way the left brain defines things is completely unhelpful to the right. So you'll find as you're starting to go, wait, what's leaves, lots of things. Notice at this moment you start thinking about something as what it is, you're generally out of right brain. So if you're thinking about how do I get these leaves in here, that's a left brain reaction. If you're trying to figure out, oh, is this a 4 or a 5? Does this read like a 4 next to the 5? I know that the 5, as Sandra pointed out, is darker. So when I add my 4 edge, I need to make sure that it's a little bit darker where 4 meets 5, right? So I'm adjusting as I go along. And I'm not really doing a lot of detail right now because I want you to sort of be attuned to those values. These sometimes subtle. I'm going, and I often find it's easier to add in the darkest values first. So I'm going in and adding my 3s and my 4s because I can kind of adjust them against my 2s and 3s. This is a 4 up here. Yeah. Maybe it's more like, this is more like a 3 here. Although there are 4s, here's another thing to think about. Although there are 4s on the light side, right, of this, there's a 4 here on the light side of this tree. There are more 4s over here. Although there's 2s on the dark side of the tree, there's more 2s over here. So I've got these in. So we're making ourselves a little map. And once you've got your 2s and your 3s out, here's another 4 down here. Once you've got your 4s in, you can start adding in your 3s. And once again, you want to make sure that your dark Ganymede reads as a 5 next to the 4, which means you may have to make it a little darker or your 4 a little lighter. And then when you lay your 3 down, your 3 has to be lighter than your 4 so that I can see it. And that means you may have to darken your 4 a little bit next to your 3. See how that's working? So if you notice as you add an edge in that's lighter, that it's not really showing up against your dark, you know you need to go in and darken more. And right now you can see I'm adding lines in, but I want you to just shade the way you like to shade. Anyway, you may not know what you like to shade. I want you to shade in whatever way feels natural to you.
Yeah, this feels so therapeutic.
Isn't it nice?
Totally in the zone.
I love it. And doesn't it feel more manageable? It feels more like manageable. Like now, look, you have a little tree. Even if you don't do anything else, look, you've got a little tree sketch. Mine has numbers on it. Here, let me take a picture of it so you guys can really see it. And I'm gonna do a little bit more adjusting. Take a moment. Yeah, I think painting and drawing trees is like super wonderful. Even though there's things that are very challenging about trees, like this is an intimidating tree, we're kind of breaking it down so that we can deal with it in a nicer way. Give me just a second, you guys. You go ahead and do that. Your sketches. So those of you who are doing painting class will see a lot of similarities between what we're trying to do in painting and what we're trying to do in drawing.
It's much easier in painting to do that, isn't it?
I think so. It's interesting. I think so, and I know you think so, Sandra, because I know you think like a painter. Naturally. So, because pastels is like painting, but it's interesting. For some people, it's harder. For some people, they like the strong lines, the contour lines of the shapes. And so they, I wonder if there's something wrong with my, here.
So
So it's
I kind of-
interesting. Yeah,
I
go
kind
ahead.
of blended it, and I'm not
Yeah.
sure. I've
Send it
lost
over.
a bit. Okay.
Send it over.
Maybe I
Remember,
lost
this
a
is
little
just
bit.
a sketch. It's not supposed to be perfect. It's just a map. It's like a map that's going to help us as we go to our bigger shapes and we add more detail. I just don't know why. This is continuing to be problematic. Let's try that now. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Okay. Huh. Oh, Claudia, lovely. Great. Claudia is using, so Sandra, you don't have enough variation.
I lost it a bit in the
So you need to go
blending.
back and find it. So go back and add your darks in first, right? Really go back. This whole shape is like super dark. This is the only 5. This is the only area where there are 5s, right in here. So we should be able to see this light edge against everything.
Okay.
Not bad, Claudia. Yes, I like it. Claudia's using charcoal. Some people find charcoal easier. So if you lose your edge, so this is what they mean when they say work the edges, right? If you lose your contrast between your light and your dark here, you lose your painting. So we go to the areas where the contrast is the greatest. This contrast, really, this line here is like a 2 against again next to a 5. Right? So that is where because this is the shadow of the tree. So everything here down has to be, we have to, as we get to this edge here, see this. If you've lost it, you need to darken your edge. You probably also need to lighten on this side too. So your focus is really here. Hi, Claire. Nice to see you. Who else is here? Sorry, I get into Aussie. Who's Aussie? Oh, hi, Tosh. Hi. So there's more people in here. If you are not already on the beginning drawing WhatsApp thread, please type your email address into the chat thread and I'll send it. Oh, I see. Claire's not here. She's just sending in a message. Hi. Is it Tashwi Nali? Is Tashwi Nali your whole first name?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Tashvi.
Tashwi.
Hi,
Nice to meet you. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from New York. I work at the BuzzFeed.
Yay.
Yeah.
Wonderful to have you. All right. So, oh, Vanessa, great. So there you go. That's exactly what we want. Nope, you did not. It's good. I know it feels like it, but remember, this is just a sketch. We're just kind of sketching out the darkest areas. If you want to like erase out a little bit of this triangle in here, but this is looking, so Vanessa, trust your gut, trust your arm more than your mind. Jane, not too bad. I want you to look at the shape here though. Everything here in this kind of pizza pie slice is dark and yours goes down like this. So I want you to pull it up by darkening everything in this shape as much as possible.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, no, Vanessa, you're absolutely right on. You've got it. So Tosh, I'm going to send you. Actually, so is it toshwi.nali@buzzfeed.com? I'll send it right over. Hang on just a second. And then you can see what everybody else is doing. Nice, Nina. Nina, everything, I love the edges. I love what you've got going on here. So just make sure that everything here is dark. This whole thing. Don't think about these little light areas. Don't really worry about them. This whole thing needs to be darker. So darken everything. And this dark needs to be darker than what's happening on this side. So I like your edges. Now I want you to fill it in. For those of you who are beginning drawers, we're going to go to a grid when we sketch this bigger, so it'll help you get things in the right shapes. Yep, getting there, Mira. Very nice. Very nice. Just keep on going. Let's take a little time here. And in the meantime, I'm going to, Tashmi, what do you cover? Out of curiosity. I love the BuzzFeed beats.
I'm actually an audience development analyst.
Oh, excellent. Even
So-
better. Cool. All right. I'm going to send you right now. Info. 1 minute. I'm 52, almost 53, so I'm very old for this kind of tech stuff, and I'm not always fantastic at it. But I'll get better. Oh,
Yeah, I
invite.
think you're fantastic.
I try, but it's hard, man. Everything changes every 5 minutes. Let's see. Tosh. Thank you, Nina. Dot. And we're so happy to have our brothers and sisters at BuzzFeed in here. So nice to have you guys. I don't know if you know this, but you and Reuters belong to the same union. Okay, Tashwi, I think I sent that over to you. Tell me if you didn't get it. Yeah, let's spend a little time here. The sketch is as important as anything else. And I think knowing how to simplify is really the biggest challenge in drawing. I think it's the hardest thing to get. And then I'll send you I'll resend all the things I've sent across. That's the one problem with WhatsApp is you can't pick up. Better, Jane. Great, great correction. Wonderful. I'm happier to see you mess up and correct than I think I'm more impressed by that than I am by people getting it right the first time. I'm suspicious of people who get it right the first time. I'm more interested in like seeing how you correct. I like it.
Real beginner here, so.
That's all good. Okay, great. Yay. There you are. Oh, Emma, gorgeous Emma, when did you? Oh, I see. That's who Aussie is. Nice to see you, Emma. Emma is the Reuters, the Reuters senior correspondent in Berlin. Her kids often join, and they take over her computer and do crazy stuff to it. Oh, Sandra, great. Well done. You got it. You got it. You got it. So we lose it, we get it back again, right? We know how to get it back again. That's the key. Excellent work. Okay, so let's just quit here. No, I'm just kidding. But if you don't do anything else today, you have done this, and this is a huge achievement right here. And you should appreciate these little drawings. They're darling. In fact, if you want to keep working on your drawing from here, if you feel like you can, you're totally welcome to. You could work on this drawing quite small. I'm going to bring us over to the big one. If you want to, if you feel like you have room to kind of come in and work around and add more detail, you can totally stay with this sketch if you would like to. If you want to draw it over, that's great too. Oh, Tashween, beautiful. Yeah. Lovely. Tashween, you can actually bring your darks in even more if you can believe it or not. Like these lights seem really huge, but you can kind of make everything kind of dark down here for the moment. Great work, you guys. Wonderful. Wonderful. So yeah, actually, for those of you who want to just stay working small and stay with this sketch, you can keep going. Does everybody actually want to do that? Kind of easier than drawing it all
Might
again?
do that, yeah.
Let's think about doing that. Cool. Okay. Well, goodness.
I think I want to start over. But
Okay. So let's start. Do you want to start big or small? You want to work on a bigger piece of paper, I'm assuming.
Big.
You want to start bigger. Sometimes it helps. I mean, it takes longer, so I'll show you how to get started.
I kind of like the. I
well,
feel like I.
Jane, I could show you how to change your shape. I can show you how to change the shape. That's easy. Let me show you this. Actually, I think we should stay with our sketches because I think we're going to get more done. I didn't realize the sketches were going to develop like this. I like it. See, I don't know, everything. Okay, so let me show you, Jane. Here is your sketch. I'm going to show you your sketch so I can see it bigger. So the shape, so the shape of the tree is kind of like, I have to look at it. Hold on. It's kind of like a big fan. Right? Like this. It comes up straight. You've just curved it a bit too much. And you've done this. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
So all you really need to do is add an extra section here up like this. Try that.
Yeah.
See that? Yeah, maybe we'll just stay with our sketches today. Who needs to draw big? We've already done all this work and these are looking cute. So why the heck not? And it's a little bit more manageable.
I didn't even put it in the middle of the page.
Right? Sorry, Sandra, I'm making this up as I go along. For those of you who just joined the thread, I'm going to reshare these, my sketches, my build-up sketches, so that you can see them. Here's the last one. Whoop, wait, nope. I want to send it to beginning drawing. No, there we go. So that's the sketch up to the sort of with all the numbers on it. I know I want to like give you guys the comfort of the grid, but you're seeming to push beyond it as I speak. Here is the sketch before that, right, with all the shapes in it. And this is something you're going to want to see. Here is the, where are you? Yes. Here is the picture with kind of the outlines. Here's the actual tree. There we go. So I'm sending, I know this is a repeat for some of you, but for those who just joined the thread, this will give them the kind of background. It's helpful to see this stuff. It's weirdly hard to see. I don't know if like Zoom's going through something. I've noticed that, I'm trying to sketch this in so you guys can really see it using yellow. But I've noticed lately that the quality is worse than usual.
Maybe it's going through teenage years.
Must be. Well, it certainly kind of leaped onto, I mean, I had been on Zoom for about 1.5 years before the pandemic, thank God. Okay. Anybody ready to kind of start moving on to more detail?
Yes.
All right. So now, once again, we're going to be going to areas where there's more detail. So right now, these are kind of big blocky shapes, right? They don't really have a lot of detail. So here, we're going to be kind of carving into, we're going to go to like where our 2s meet our 1s. And we're going to be carving in kind of the shapes of leaves. Notice that the shapes of these leaves, let me draw this big so you can see it. The shapes of these leaves aren't really like this, right? They're not like that. They're kind of more, and they sometimes have little areas sticking out like that, right? Kind of more raggedy than they are curve, curve, curve like a scallop. So you want to kind of look at where your leaf where these edges are and kind of use that to bring the dark in, to carve in leaf shapes. And there's one, and once you do that, you're then going to see that within the two, there's kind of a three, a kind of lighter, a darker shape inside, kind of a three within the two. That makes sense. So you'll add that onto the bottom of the two shapes here. So if you look and see, you'll see that once we get that kind of, so let's kind of focus on, and I'm going to bring this up close so you can really see it.
So
There we go. So what
doing this, I end up with the sort of that outline is darker.
So then you need
than what's
to
around
smooth that out. You need to smooth that out, right? So either you spread a little bit more dark everywhere or you lighten it just a little bit with your
Okay.
eraser. So there's a lot of like back and forth, right? That's happening as you're starting to kind of nuance your leaves. I should get rid of these big twos if I'm going to be doing this. So you see, as I start to kind of darken underneath, but maybe like a 3 into my 2. Yes, I see what you, yes. So, and then of course, yes, as you start to darken here, you'll get this dark outline, which then needs to be kind of spread out.
Okay.
So I need to darken it a little bit more. And then, oh, you're running into another area here. Right, that's pretty. And in a couple places here, you'll see it gets kind of darker, kind of scoops in at the bottom in a few places. So really what we're doing is we're just moving around and working the edges.
Leah, when you're doing your edges, are you just sort of like winging it, or are you sort of like trying to mimic what's on the original
What a
drawing?
wonderful question. I'm doing a little bit of both. So some of it is winging it. And part of that is that I know this is a small, right? This is a small drawing. So I know I don't need to do that, get that much detail to have a tree that really reads well. But I'm also looking for key shades here. So right here, I'll move this over so you can really see it. I'm working on this area right here. So I know that there's this thing coming in. Oops, and I went a little too dark here. And I know that it's kind of like a little, it's like, there's like a mid-tone that comes underneath this branch. So I'm looking in places, I'm looking at where there are, if I can see the shape, maybe is the best way to put it, right? I'm just outlining it here. I'm going for it. If I can't really see the shape, I'm winging it a little bit more. But I notice here, there's kind of a lighter shape that comes up. It's not just fully dark here, so I can kind of go in, and so it's a little bit of both. I'm trying not to get too into it. I'm really looking at just the edges, and that's it. I can see up here, and notice I'm using my eraser as much as I'm using my pencil. A little bit of both. Out here, I can see more. It's hard to see because I've covered it up, but out here I can see a little bit more of these dark edges kind of coming out in branches. Can you see that? So I'm coming out here and adding those just at the edges. I'm not like really going crazy, but I'm going where the edge where, and I'm going to get rid of that line here. So kind of where I see more edges, I'm working. And I'm really going with the bigger edges first. And I want to warn you right now, it's going to be, this is kind of tedious work, right? The work of looking at your edges. It's a little tedious, but it's kind of worth it. It's a tedious that will bring you somewhere as opposed to trying to draw every leaf. So do you see how now things are starting to read a little bit more? And you see, I don't have to do that much. So down here as well, there's a kind of more of a lacy pattern. So I'm really paying attention to, I can see more of the individual leaves kind of floating up. I'm not doing every one, but I am kind of, you can't see this here. I'm following this edge. And what'll happen is you'll eventually get to a point where you're like, oh, okay, I've done enough edges, right? Notice that the insides of these blocks, a lot of them are really fully dark. So you really don't have to get every leaf. You really have to work on where the leaf is meeting. Just kind of meeting this edge. Really, it's just here. And then you'll find you have to get dark. You'll find you need less than you think of those edges. See how I'm kind of working around. Now I have this dark branch in here, which I can see. I'm not really going to follow it very far. And what I can see is happening is there's a little bit of a, it's kind of light, but it's kind of not. Right? There's little branches coming in here. So if I wanted to, I could leave this kind of partially dark. Notice, although it's light, there's not actually, you can see, you're registering light. You can't see that the light spaces are actually not that significant. And then what's happening down here is more significant, which is that the branches are kind of fading off into something. They're dark, but they're a little bit less together. You know, they're a little bit lacier. This branch can be seen against it. So there's that. And then I can come in here and kind of re-pull out. So there's nothing that says you can't go back in, right? To pull out your dark edges. Even in this like kind of light triangle, which is here, there's little bits of leaf coming in. I've noticed that my trunk is a little bit thick, so I'm thinning it here. See how easy that is to do? See how easy that is to fix your shapes?
Leah, how do I keep from making my edges look like shark teeth?
Sharp teeth. You want to make them a little bit, you want to start by making them just a little bit lighter here and then darken them.
Okay.
Right? So that you can't see, if you can see the lines, right? So you want to bring dark right up to these edges. See how I've added them in and now I'm bringing more solid dark up into it so that just the edge is showing up. So I guess the quick answer to that question is less is more. You think you need to, when you work on this area, it's easy to get things too dramatic, right? So once you put them in, see how I'm kind of going over everything. So I can still see those edges, but I'm going over with a very light thing to get to sort of fill in some of that extra here that's happening. I'm probably not going to worry about this light in here. I don't think I need it. I may need it, but I don't feel like it yet. Notice that your branches kind of disappear after a certain point. You might notice, oh my God, I didn't leave room for all my branches. So let that be okay. Just work on your bigger shapes. I don't know if I need every single branch here kind of going off. Notice that although the branch kind of stops here, the reason it stops is that everything is that dark. So when a branch fades off, you need to make sure the leaves that it fades off into are dark enough so that it's natural to assume it would fade off. Oh, yeah. Here, I'm going to tape that down, and then I think we have it. I'm going to remember this, you guys, drawing small. I like this. I think it's easier. Right? I can erase a little bit of this and darken to have that show up a little bit more and darken it here. So notice although there's a light, there are sky holes, right? There's holes in which that is an actual technical landscape term. There are technical holes where the sky comes through. Notice how when you add them in, how actually small they are. They aren't that, they end up being much smaller than you imagine them. I'm going to kind of, because I've been working a lot in here, I'm going to come in down here. I see that in several places, the branches come in a little bit higher like that. So I'm kind of bringing these darks in a little bit. I can see there's a darkish area down here too, so I'm kind of carving up. How's it going, guys? I won't say that drawing is exactly easy, but I will say that there are ways to accomplish tasks that are manageable and ways that are not. And if you start thinking about every leaf on this tree, you're going to shut down immediately, right? There's like no question. Here's an interesting point. What do we do with the leaf shapes over here on the light side, right? So I'm kind of going in and I'm bringing in some kind of, I had just done lines here to indicate a kind of lightness. So now I might bring in a little bit of more lines going vertical to indicate kind of movement of leaves. I'm still focusing on the darks, on the dark areas, on the areas where light meets dark. So I'm getting a little bit darker here. I can see that there's kind of a light area that comes in up here, right? I'm not so wedded. This is a map that we've made, but it's not completely, as you get in, you'll see more. I mean, there's more edges than we can count, right? They're everywhere. like we're finding edges everywhere. So once you start working on one, you'll be led to another. Yeah, it's starting to look kind of nice. My suggestion to you, use the bigger, get to the bigger edges first. Right? The ones that you can really see, the ones that we've drawn out. And if you want to, send what you're working on over. If you're feeling like, oh, this doesn't look right, or hey, this looks great. Can I send it? Go over. Send it over. And I'll take a look at it. Let me take a picture of this, where it is right now, so you can see. Here, I'm going to move it down a little bit. I'll put it right back up so you guys can see it. But I want you to see really how loose it is. I'm going to do some close-ups so you can really see how little detail I have. Here's like the dark side. I really don't have any leaf detail in here at all. And you notice that's not really super bothersome. Oh, Sandra, lovely.
Really?
Lovely. Yeah, it's
It
coming
doesn't look
along.
lovely to me, but
I mean, your shape is a little bit off. So if you want to like correct
yeah, I was
that,
very sloppy because it was.
yeah, because we thought we were doing a sketch. I know
but
we
it
totally,
doesn't
it doesn't
matter
matter.
much.
Yeah, if you want to, you can bring it out a little bit, but I want you to just, now you're kind of bringing in your darks and continuing. There are 4s in here where you need to keep working. You just need to
Right.
keep working and scalloping those edges. I feel like it's a little too, like, if, for example, it kind of looks like you did this. I think one of the things that's hard to work with is your shape is different enough now that you're struggling to get the nuance right. So here, hold on. I'm going to show you what's happening here.
The one
I think
before me
shape-
is fantastic.
What's that?
Jay Chan, the one before me is fantastic.
Let me see. Hold on. Let me see. Let me see. Oh, Jessica, is that you?
Oh, no, it's Janet.
Oh, Janet. Well
Janet.
done, Janet. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Wonderful work. Yeah, that is wonderful. So do you see, it looks a little bit, I think your shape is causing you problems right now because your shape is a little, here is the shape of the tree. I'm going to sketch it in and
Hold
I'll
on, I
show
can't
you.
see
Hold on. I know I'm going to sketch it in and then I'm going to put it up.
where you
Here
are.
is the shape of the tree. Right? Here is the shape of the tree. And your shape is like this. This is your shape. So if you maybe pull the tree out
we
a
had
little bit.
a white space here, and I.
Yeah, you just made it way too wide. You just exaggerated it. That's my point. So I think one of the things you're having trouble with is you're going like this. You know, you're trying to create it like this, and it feels wrong because the tree canopy really comes over like this, and this is a smaller shape.
Okay.
So it might
can
be
fix
better
that.
to come over here. Yeah, it's coming
But
along.
the bottom right, it needs to come wider as well, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I think shape correction will help you a little bit in terms of, you know, where you go. If you have this nice big dark shape like this, right?
Mhm.
It balances the tree. So it
Right.
really, the canopy is kind of balanced by these shapes against each other.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wonderful. And it's okay, Sandra, to really struggle with this because this is pencil, which is harder. So for you and I, we could do this in paint or pastel a lot easier than we could do it in pencil. So the pencil, it's really just learning to get the pencil to do, you know, kind of to figure out how to get the pencil to do these edges the way you would do them with the pastel.
Yeah.
I still do a fair amount of blending. In any event, it's still rather, can you guys believe an hour and a half has gone by? I mean, we have a half an hour left in class. No, yes, we do. That's crazy. Janet, I'm going to add you in. Vanessa, how do you blend in and fill out the edges? You're just going to keep going. Can you see here how I've like kind of worked these edges here? So you want to make, if you'll notice, Vanessa, now is the time to look in and see kind of where in some places it's a little bit of dark comes into that lighter shape, kind of like a scoop, right? Like that. So you need more detail. So now, and look at here. I'm going to send you some things, Vanessa, to look at. Work your edge a little bit more like this around where your dark meets your light edge. So see, now you add a little more detail. Pay a little bit more attention to so look at your source. Here, I'll put this out so you guys can see the source. Right? Pay attention to the edge here, a little bit more. You don't have to do a lot more, but right now, Vanessa, your edges, and by the way, very nice sketch. Your edges are still looking too solid like this. If you can see in my sketch where I've worked the edges, see how it's a little bit darker? See how I'm I'm reshaping and bringing in a few of the darks from underneath. So every light edge will have some darks underneath it. Not two, so every two will have a little bit of three underneath it like that, shaping it. Look at the difference between here and here, where I haven't done that, right? This is just a straight line. So now is the time to start adding in what we call the midtones. So within each two, there's a little bit of three underneath. Take a look at what that shape is doing. So now I am paying more attention to what's actually happening to the tree, because that's giving me ideas about how the light is hitting it. Look at this. See how I'm scooping that up a little bit? I'm not getting everything.
And Leah, can you say something about how you do the edges on the right side where the light hits the tree? Is it the same technique?
Yeah, it's still a little bit darker.
Okay.
Right around the edge. Although you might find in some places, you may use your eraser a little bit more. Here, sorry, I'm doing, as I'm saying this,
I can't see.
yeah, here, hold on. So let's do it here so you can see that, right? So now I definitely want to get rid of this hard line here. And I can see that underneath here, it's a little bit darker. And maybe in a few cases, I don't like fill in as much. But you'll still see that here, there's still dark edges here. Can you see those in here?
Yeah.
So you might be doing a little bit more back and forth. Great question. But I still don't want to see those lines. In fact, I'm probably on the left side, on the right side, I'm even more likely to erase my lines and replace them with kind of leaf shapes. Yeah, I might make these a little bit further apart. As I get lower on the tree, things get a little darker, even on the light side. Does that help?
Mm. Yeah, thanks.
I mean, there's a lot. It's still a lot. Beautiful work, you guys. Really wonderful. So, Sandra, if you have any trees that you like, keep in mind, send me photographs. We can do all of them. I was going to do evergreens just because there's a ton around me and there are leaves there, so we can work on those too. But if anybody has a tree that they like that seems kind of simple, right? Not too complex like this one, believe it or not, although there's a lot going on in this one, it's still not too complex because there's a pretty strong light and dark side. We don't, there's like pretty big light and dark shapes in here. So yeah, if you guys want to, here, send me over suggestions. We'll spend a couple more weeks with trees. And then I think we might move to animals because I feel like there's a nice
yes, please.
transition between like fur and leaves, right? So
I'd rather do fur, I must say.
Yeah.
I think it's easier than this.
I think it's only easier to you because you do it a lot. I think it's harder. I think you'll find, and with a pencil, you might find it more challenging.
Maybe,
but yeah. Look, the truth is, people are like, oh, you must find drawing so relaxing. And on one level, that's really true. I totally do find drawing really relaxing. But I feel like drawing really requires me to focus intently in a different way that I do in the rest of my life, which is what's relaxing about it. I'm not really caring about what I'm drawing. I mean, I'm caring about what I'm drawing, but what I'm drawing, I'm not thinking about my ideas about what I'm drawing. I'm really trying to get the shapes. So Vanessa, in this continued conversation of, you know, how much detail are you paying attention to? I'm looking at this shape down here. It's kind of a big shape. So I'm kind of scooping it out, right? See how I'm kind of adding it in my edge. Wherever I think my shapes might be, yeah. To sort of reshape the edge of my canopy. I mean, this could go on forever, believe me. It's been a long time doing this, but I'm kind of looking where I always look first is kind of where are the edges? Where are these dark edges kind of looking? Let's see. Oh, gosh. Oh my God, that looks fantastic. You know, maybe we'll try it. That's beautiful. Oh, I love the shadows too. You know what? We might try that. I love it. Okay, keeping it. Love this. You're going to regret sending this in, Tashween, but but it's beautiful. It's stunning. That's a stunning picture. Oh my God, I'd love to paint that. It's so
Yes,
beautiful.
exactly. That's what my thought. But it'd be nicer to paint.
It would be really fun to do as a painting, right? Kind of a pain as a drawing, but so beautiful. Yeah, in pastels, it'll be beautiful. You might be listening to this patter that Sandra and I have going about like painting being easier than drawing. Here is what I have learned, and this is a gross generalization, so be aware that it's a gross generalization, but it is, I believe it's kind of true, which is that there are people in art, there are so many things that you have to do well, that nobody is good at all of them. And I have noticed that people tend to divide into two categories. There are people who are way more comfortable with a pencil and who can really get the pencil to do a lot for them. And then there are people who are more comfortable with the paintbrush or pastels, and they can get that tool to do more for them. So I like to call them the pencil drawers and the paintbrushers. And pencil drawers tend to see a little bit more outlines, a little bit more, paintbrushers tend to, it's easier for a paintbrusher to see light, dark shapes. So you will notice when I teach drawing like a paintbrusher. When I started painting at 30, I did have some gift, a little bit of a gift in painting. My drawing sucked. Absolutely terrible. It was the worst. I would go into drawing classes. I would be the worst one in the class. Everybody who knows me, who has been in my classes long enough knows that I told people I cried, I broke down. It was very hard. I was a journalist before I became an artist, and I worked for Time magazine covering the Hong Kong handover to China before I was 30. So I was like it was very hard for me to go from being terrible to being, being good at something to being terrible at it. It was incredibly, my ego took the most massive hit. But what I learned from that is, I actually learned to draw by paying more attention to my painting. And I learned that drawers can learn to paint. I'm pretty happy with my drawing now. It's not bad. It's not fantastic, but it's definitely, it does what I need it to do to get my work done. And, very nice, Mira. So Mira, you've got too much detail inside. Here's what I want to show you.
Okay.
You've got too much detail going inside here. So this and this looks exactly the same value.
Okay.
Do you see that? So I want you to pay attention to where this edge meets this edge.
Okay.
And less at what's going on inside.
Okay.
Right? Forget what's going on inside. If you look at here, there's nothing going on inside except a value. There's no leaf shapes. All the leaf shapes are here.
Okay.
You're not putting them inside because you can't inside. When I say inside, I mean inside one of these shapes.
Right.
Right? So
Mhm.
really you need to get your values back. This needs to get darker. You need to take
Okay.
your eraser in and lighten.
Lighten on this stuff. Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
Yep. And notice that up here, everything is dark above your, where your tree branches end.
Okay.
Everything is dark. That's how you can tell. The tree branches disappear into dark, right? They don't go up into light. They disappear in the dark.
Okay.
Yeah. This is hard. So let it be okay. Believe me, every mistake that I'm seeing, every mistake that you guys are making, I made for years. many, many, many mistakes. So anyway, my whole point of saying that is just to say, this is a new, it's a new way of thinking about a subject. You will stop thinking about what the subject is. And you will notice that the things that tell you, oh, nice, Jane, wonderful. So Jane, my only suggestion would be start working the edges down here a little bit, because there's a little bit of a raggediness, right?
Yep.
So work that here, but see how correcting the shape totally helps you float those pieces?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Very wonderful. Doesn't that feel good that you're like, oh my God, I can totally correct this.
Yeah,
I can do
absolutely.
this. I mean, listen, you can keep going, right? You can keep going and getting more and more detailed with your shifts. Within each of these shapes, there are little shifts and like dark and light areas coming up. So Sandra, better. So now really carve out those edges here, right here.
Okay.
Nice. And the other thing, Sandra, is I can see your tree branches coming up too high. So really the tree, notice that my tree branches stop here and then everything is dark above it. So it's like the tree branch kind of, they disappear rather
Okay.
than see them. So that's kind of pushing those a little too far. I think if you darken this, it's going to help.
Okay.
But very, I feel like the shape, changing the shape really helped a lot.
I'm not sure these white areas read as lighter leaves.
You may have to go in and light, because you have to keep going in and adding more detail. So you've lost your lights over on this side, right? Your
Where?
lights, you lost your
Oh.
lights over on this side.
Oh.
So you need to kind of, you're kind of you're probably leaning on it a little bit. You're darkening in other areas. So you need to pull those lights. Your next job is to really pull the lights out on this side.
Yes, I see that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Toshween, nice. That's coming along. So the only thing I would say here is I feel like I like how your branch. So you see how Toshween's branches disappear into the dark?
Let me see.
So Toshween, I would say just keep working the edges here more. So they're a little bit more raggedy and there's a little bit more shapes here because it's a little bit lighter coverage, right? So you can dip in. If you look here, you'll see you've got this pretty solid. Maybe go in with your eraser and pull in some more of this shape. It's a little bit more lacy, less solid.
Okay.
Even down here under this branch, right? If you can see here, it's kind of, so you're, yeah, I know it's a back and forth. It's a pain in the neck, but it's a pain in the neck, but you guys are doing great. This is really awesome. It's hard. Nina, that's coming along nicely. Sorry, I somehow lost your piece. That's coming along nicely. I love your dark and light contrast. Now I want to see more scalloping. And notice there's a big dark area in the light shape. So you need between the light shapes. So you need to add that into, I see you've got it. So now you've really got to scallop in, shape the leaves around the edges of each of these clumps. Nice. And also it's a little too, wait a minute, let me look here. Nice. It's really coming along. Bring your dark down, Nina, in the canopy so that you don't have these sharp white edges here. You've got, it's easy to go, although look how cool it looks on screen. This is a very rad looking tree. In some ways you could just stop right here. But if you want to kind of get what's going on here, it's down to here, it's much darker.
Okay. I think I erased parts of it. So.
Yeah, so then go back over, you know how it is. You go back over, you erase, you pull it out. What I think all of you are noticing is you're starting to add in your lights, particularly in the dark area, that a tiny little white space is all you really need, right? You need much less white than you think. There's a lot more dark in there. And those whites just boom. When you put a white next to a dark, it bam comes, you know, barreling forth. It comes right at us. So we want to be careful if we have our lights that they're not too overwhelming, because this is the dark side. It should primarily read dark. If you look here, my light has gotten very small. It's really only in this area, right? It's not like hugely up here and down. So be careful. It's easy to like let that go out. Okay, Claudia. So now get your eraser in and work these areas more. I like how your lights are reading, but I want to really see that edge come out between light and dark. And you're losing it a little bit here and there, but nice. See how Claudia has got her lights kind of mitigated. They're much smaller in her dark side. I also like this kind of lacy little edge happening here. Very nice. Good job, you guys, killing it. We've got about 15.
Can I ask you a question that has nothing to do with drawing, please?
Sure.
I know you're not much into watercolor, but do you have an opinion about pans versus tubes?
Oh, I love watercolor. I love watercolor.
Oh.
I just don't, I mean, yes.
So,
I like the tubes.
so do I.
Because you can, and sometimes
pans.
you can like load, sometimes you can take some wet tube paint and lay it on top, like particularly whites. You can sometimes do a little corrective light spots and things like that. I way prefer the tubes.
So do I.
Yeah.
Because I have a set that I got, I don't know, like 30 years ago of pans. So a good thing that they're still good.
Right.
But I was using it the other day and it drove me insane if you want to do a large wash to get enough pigment and water going.
Absolutely. Yeah, pan can be a bit of a pain. I used to use this sort of semi-moist set that came from Russia called Yarka. That was really good. But I have moved really over to liking the Janet Chan. You're getting a lot of reaction to your drawing in a really good way. Sorry, I'm just laughing going over this and seeing everybody going, wow. And it's kind of awesome. See, this is why it's important for us to draw and draw together. We're going to be able to help each other, encourage each other, learn from how each other does the marks. I'm trying to get everybody in here. Vanessa. Once I add you into my contacts, it gets a lot easier to add you to different threads. And you will be in this thread until you choose to leave. I would recommend staying in it, even if you can't make every class, because there's a video of every class. Hold on. And you can follow along better if you've got like what's being posted on the thread at the same time. Okay, if I got everybody, all our new people. Anyway, everybody here is doing great. So regardless of what I'm telling you, regardless of whether I'm asking you to correct or change things, you're doing great. Everybody's doing great. Boy, I'm glad. Aren't you glad we decided not to draw this big? Oh my God. Can't even like
I must
imagine.
say, I have a little pad and it's less intimidating.
Isn't it? I just learned something really important here. Sometimes it's going to help us to draw bigger, but we may work on smaller drawings just because I think it'll be easier. So anyway, I don't know what I was rambling on about. I guess what I wanted to tell you guys is we have gone almost 2 hours. I want you to notice, like, if you kind of forgot how, does it feel like less time than that? Does it feel like less time? Yeah, Vanessa's like, yes, totally feels like that. She's like, leave me alone. I want to get my edges down. I'm working on my edges. Quit it. I would highly recommend, by the way, that even if you take a class, that you might try watching the video later, like trying it again. Because a lot of times when you're in class, it's, I find myself when I'm in class, when I take a class, that I don't tend to do that well in the class. It's afterwards when I've had time to absorb the lesson that I'm more likely to do well. So I allow myself, I guess, to be kind of not good at it when I first start out, so that there's a push that happens there. And so getting the assignment right is not necessarily the best observation of how well you do. It's actually more like getting the assignment wrong and then kind of working it around and noodling with it till you get it better. So I definitely recommend like watching the videos again. But I am very impressed with what you guys have done. I also noticed the other thing. Let's see, Tashwin. Oh, beautiful. Oh, girl, it's coming along. It's coming along. I like your little value scale that you have up here. That's awesome. Also, I tend to pull these. My company is called the Roaming Studio. There's a website where you can find, actually the Art at Work portal is on my website. That's where you can find the YouTube link to all the classes, the schedule, the Zoom link for everything, yada, yada, yada. And I have an Instagram where I like to post students' work. So if you do not want me to post your work, just send me a note on WhatsApp. And I will not do that. If you don't send me a note, I will assume it's okay to maybe sometimes post your work. I really like, I like this. Like, I love looking at Tashween's here. I like this little value scale up here. To me, this shows that she's paying attention to process, right? Like, she's got her little value scale, she's using it. So. Oh, and somebody else just came in before that. Was that Emma coming along? Great, lovely, wonderful. Just keep on working those. As you can see, you can continue to work the edges. You may, Emma, on the light edges here, want to like kind of pull your eraser in so that we don't see this strong contour line. So I know it's darker around the edges, but you may want to mitigate that a little bit. Like, it's so funny, I want to go in and do it on your drawing, which I can't do because it's on the computer screen, right? If I try to erase, but I can show you where I mean. So you can actually, here, kind of take your eraser in and go into these edges so they look a little bit less. Here, I'll do it here in mine. So that edge is not so strong. And a little bit more varied and less defined. I can see it sort of happening on mine. Sometimes you can sort of take it and bring in a slightly lighter layer. And I am like coming in here on my right side. After looking at Emma's, it's reminding me I need to come in here and take my eraser to pull out my edge here, right? With a more, so the eraser can be a tool as well. honestly, anything can be a tool. When I'm outside, painting outside, like sometimes I will use a leaf to paint, right? Because, hey, Emma, you want to make, actually, now that I look at this closer, you want to darken here to make these branches disappear. So the branches should be, this should be up here, this whole area here. We shouldn't really see these branches. If you look here, you'll see you can't really see them very well. You can kind of see them a little bit, but it looks better to kind of darken. Stop the branches about here. Darken up here. Very nice though. Wonderful. Oh, it's so good, you guys. Vanessa, starting to get there. Yes, I love what's happening down. I absolutely adore what's happening down here. So you can make it even darker now, Vanessa, here, right, to match this dark, sharp edge that you've got. Do you see what I'm saying? So I love this edge. So now darken everything so everything is as dark as this, so that this doesn't stand out, this edge. You want to darken everything up here. Beautiful. Love how you've handled this and what's happening up here. Yep, you're getting there. It's great. Another 4 hours. You'll be done. Thanks, Nina. Yeah, it's making, yes, as long as we're learning, that's the most important thing. All right, we've got about 5 more minutes left. So go ahead and send in your latest effort. Work for another 5 minutes, a couple minutes, and then I'm going to pull the spotlight off because I feel like you guys don't need it anymore. And I'm going to move into gallery view. I like to see who's still here. I love seeing everybody, all the new people. And what I feel like is, regardless of how well this went, you're going to see, particularly those of you who are doing painting, how this is going to help painting. Sandra, can you see how this is going to help your pastels and your painting?
You know, I was watching during the night when I couldn't sleep some videos of somebody doing exactly this in watercolor. And of course it was much easier, you know, but it's exactly that.
Lovely, you guys. Oh, Sandra, this really turned out great. I'm really happy with your final. I know you're probably like, there's could be more to it. Very nice. This reads super well. Great work. Mira, you're starting to get there. Remember, honey, this is all the same darkness. It's the same darkness. So get in there and darken
it. Yep.
Don't lighten it. Darken it.
Oh, the darkening the bottom.
Darken it. This should, what's happening, Mira, is that you're thinking of the trunk as separate from the leaves. But when you look at this shape, you got to think of them as, this is just all dark.
Okay.
Right? So you're trying to get the trunk to stand out in a way that it actually isn't, that's in a way that isn't actually happening.
Okay.
So everything has to be the same equal darkness. Go over that.
Okay.
And Jane, nice. I'm really pleased with your, and do you see how easy it was to fix it? I really love that fix. Wonderful. Great work, you guys. Wonderful work. Okay, hold your pieces up. Let's take a moment and hold our pieces up. I always hold my piece up. They're kind of hard to see. Wonderful. Oh my God, you guys. Great. Great work. Nice, nice, nice work. They did good, huh, Jessica? What are you
Yeah,
working
really
on, Jessica?
fabulous.
Yeah, they did great.
Ah.
Here's what's funny. Like if you're in a beginning drawing class, right? So everybody wound up with a drawing that looks like a tree. Not only like a tree, but like this tree, right? Everyone. There is not one person who did not do this today. Then you all of a sudden get more picky. Well, it's a tree, but it's not like exactly the right tree. And I don't like this and I don't like that. And so I love it that drawing is always the place where the bar raises immediately. You know what I mean? To like all of a sudden you're like, so it'll take practice to work on these edges and we're going to keep practicing. But I think everybody did great today. The only other thing I want you to notice before we end is I want you to notice if there's any difference in how you feel now than how you felt at the beginning of class. So I don't know if anybody wants to share. Was there a shift? Was there a shift that happened? Would love to hear from the new people. Tashween, tell us what changed for you.
I really like the idea of drawing, but I'm always scared that's not going to look like what I wanted to look like in the end. And it was really nice to like just be okay with where I'm at that moment and then work my way to.
So did you start a little bit anxious, like in class, like, right? Like a little anxious, like, oh my God, am I going to be able to do this? And now you feel just interested in the process?
Yeah. Like, okay, maybe I can spend more time on it and maybe I'll get there. But in the beginning,
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So having a sense of that's actually huge. Having a sense of pacing and timing, like how long things take, is like massive. Yeah, wonderful. Anybody else want to share before we go? How do you feel now versus how you did at the beginning of class? How do you
Good
feel,
to show
Claudia?
up.
Yeah, Jessica was like, you were a little stressed at the beginning of class or tired or something. There was something going on with you. I couldn't figure out what it was.
Oh, it's just, yeah.
Claudia, what about you? You have a nice, peaceful, like, like you're completely like blissed out.
It's the lamp. I kind of, yeah, I well, it's Saturday, so I've been more relaxed than in the Friday class because I was home. But I love this one. I just totally, I mean, I love charcoal. It's much my thing than acrylic.
Yeah.
But I just love what's going into it. And the tree is just, it's just, I don't know, it just gives me peace. So.
Isn't it relaxing? I feel like, as I told you guys, those of you who weren't in the class last week, my first drawing class that I ever got anywhere as a drawer was drawing trees. I took a class where we went to a park and the teacher put us in front of trees. And for 6 weeks, we met in that park and we would lay on the ground and we would draw the trees. And it was magical. I mean, it was like, there is something about a tree. And when you really look at it, like the trunk's not going straight up, right? It's going this way and then that way and then this way and then that way. There's this beautiful organic feeling to them. Yeah, they do make us feel better. We're probably like nothing to them. They're just like whatever ants. But
no, they like it actually. Trees like the attention.
Do they like the attention? Now that I could see.
Yeah.
That I could
no,
see.
They really like it. You get into
Yeah.
I'm sorry, this is where I get weird, but
no, do it.
It's a very like nonverbal thing. When you're giving them like good attention, they actually do respond back.
I believe that. I believe that. I
really
believe that you
nice,
could
yeah.
measure it with, I could believe you could measure it with the energy. I believe that the tree would start emitting things differently, energy differently when you start looking at
They
it and
like
paying
it.
attention to it.
It's more of like a communion thing. Like they
Yeah.
It's a
they're
connection.
aware of it. They're
They
aware
like
of
being
it and
noticed.
they like it.
They
Yeah,
like being
like it.
noticed. There's a book called, in this vein, there's a book by Derek Jensen called A Language Older Than Words. And it talks all about this. If anybody's interested, that is a like thing as you're communing. So anyway.
There's also this book. Sorry.
What's
Are
that?
you still there? Hold on,
Show
I've
us.
lost you.
Turn
Have a
your video
computer.
back on.
I'm not even in the right. Okay, yeah. I was using it.
Oh, The Hidden
for
Life
back
of
the
Trees
video.
is fantastic. Yes, yes. So
It was
maybe,
under the iPad, which is why.
so since we're spending time with trees for the next few weeks, let's, you can read about them as well. Great work, everybody. Wonderful to see all the new BuzzFeed friends. Please come back. Tomorrow we have a pastel landscape class, which you could potentially do as a pencil drawing if you don't have the pastels, but it's really fun to try and get pastels if you'd like to. And great to meet everybody new and see you all again. We'll see you next week. More trees.
Thanks, Leah.
Thanks, Leah.
Bye, guys.
guys.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.